Good morning, survivors. Dr. Dementia, State 469 Cat Alliance. Hey, just got done with SVS yesterday, State versus State, against State 472. And I want to preface all of this, and please, I know that the introductions are often boring, but this is kind of important. Look, this is not an egotistical issue, and this is not a bragging issue. We won. We won because we were better. But not just that, we fought a good state. They were organized to an extent. They were able to reorganize to an extent, and they were strong. So just to give you an idea, they had more P5 than we did, a good bit more. I think at the time, they had about 12 more P5 than we had. They had more settlements with BP at a level that could produce T11. Now we know that producing the T11 and your BP are not actually related to each other. You could have a large number of troops to get that BP up and not the research and plasma lab, but they had a large number over that 230 mark, and they had more T11 for sure. That being said, they also had a very unique player. I've never seen it happened before. I'm sure some of you have, but I haven't. But they had one player, Kiwi, with two separate accounts. And until I would ever get a chance to talk to the guy, I won't know. But I think both of those accounts are on different devices. Or he is smart enough to recognize where to position his main and his alt to get the timing correct between launching on his alt and then launching on his main. I will tell you this, I've yet to run into another state as a coordinated state that was able to rally within 1 second of double and triple and quadruple rallies. So that being said, yeah, we won. Yeah, we were better. But you know something? There were a lot of good people there. I talked to a ton of different players. Of course, there's, an asshole in every apple. There's a rotten apple in every bucket. There's an asshole in every seat. Some immature players, some jerks, but for the most part, 99, 98%, all good people, really and truly, all good people. And thank you, State 472, for a great fight. It was very unique. At the end, and unfortunately, because of so much happening in this, I may have to break this into two separate videos because I don't want to have something boring drug out. I need to cut it. Hopefully I can cut enough and keep it interesting and keep it as one. But in the end, I'll let you know just how expensive it was. I will tell you and give you a glimpse in advance. I never used a single bio to heal. And yet I burned through 1.7 million in bios. When you see how many millions of troops of mine that died and the enormous amount of heal ups necessary, you're going to understand just how expensive, as states get bigger, SVS can get very quickly. So, with that being said, hey, please click below, subscribe, like, comment, and click on the notification bell so you'll know The more subscribers I get, the funner it is for me to take the time to make these videos. This 12-hour event is cut into 8 one-hour videos, which I'm going to try and edit down to no more than 45 to 55 minutes, but I may end up with 2 45-minute or 30-minute videos. I don't know yet. But the end will be interesting when I post the actual figures and numbers. So, with all of that being said, let's get it on. Thanks. Here we are at OAO. And you can see we are burning the shit out of them. Now, we poured it immediately prior to being able to even get into Capitol and wanted to just go ahead and get rid of them. Let them know we're here, wake them up, say, hey, you know what? This is not going to be a walkover, and we don't care if you've got the strongest players in the state. We're here. And so you can watch and see we just decimate their hive. Anything, everything. And I was surprised. I really was surprised, just because, quite frankly, I expected their secondaries to be much stronger. But you're going to see their primaries were not even in the hive. We found them a little bit later, and you'll see it, jellied up, and apparently they were at a fortress fight earlier the previous night or day or whatever. I think what happened here is they felt that because they never get beat up, because they're the biggest guys out there, or because a couple of their guys can beat everybody, they have no fear. They weren't afraid of anything, and they certainly weren't expecting this. Now, why they weren't expecting a visit, I have no idea. They should have certainly expected a visit. And so this is one of the things that I would tell every one of you, that any of you that are watching this because you want to see how SVS takes place against a competitive team, the first thing you do is make sure your hive gets bubbled up. And if it doesn't get bubbled up, you guess what? Don't even think twice. If your members aren't smart enough or willing enough to bubble up, tough shit for them. That's their problem. That's just simply the way it goes. You bubble up if you're going to sit around and do nothing. It's just that simple. Another thing you're going to notice is me going through and healing troops. However, because of the edits, you're also going to find out that there's a lot that you don't see. So at the end of the series, I'll give you a grand total of how many troops I healed, how many dead I had, and how many days of healing it took. Another item that you may want to understand or try to understand is when you get to be as active as I am, there are some side effects that are less than desirable. And that is I'm powerful enough that I can beat the living crap out of just about everybody. Here we are. They're up in, this is the fortress we found them at. And we were able to pick on a few, but they're too big to, the ones that were up there were too big for me to reasonably solo. I did solo a couple of them just to see what would happen. But the byproduct that I was talking about was I end up with a lot of dead and wounded because I solo a lot, either to soften the target up for somebody else or just to piss them off, one or the other. It's a points game, and I'm shopping for points while I can. I also have to be reasonable about the points that I shop for, because I don't get credit for any points on a settlement that's a P2 and lower. That doesn't mean I won't beat up a few of them. It just means I don't get credit for it. Another thing that I should mention is a lot of this part one, you're going to find that I'm in narrating it. And then you're also going to find that in part two, which is I'm almost done with, but I wanted to get this posted as I have another project to take care of. But in part two, most of it is in Discord. I also get comments about why am I not active more in reinforcing, or why am I not active more in joining other rallies, or multiple questions like that. And it's a valid question, and it's a reasonable question. And I'll tell you why. It's simple. I have a lot going on, and I'm looking for specific things, and I have just too much to take care of to participate in everything. Now, at the time, I should preface it, if you're reading the messages, we didn't realize the bio was already in state and attacking other camps. It's my understanding a couple of them were at WAR, and I think a couple of them were at some of the CX, and a couple of them were elsewhere. But either way, I don't get to participate in everything because I'm looking at multiple items. I'm in Discord voice with the state participants, but not all state participants are in voice. Some of them are in Discord text. And finally, our entire team is not always in voice. We have a lot of other people that are busy doing other things, can't be in voice, but they'll be in game in the Alliance chat. And in part three, you're going to see just how valuable that is. And when I say it's valuable, I mean it's valuable because I answer a question at the end of SVS, and I'll go over it again in part three. But the beauty of it is we take this pretty seriously. We have players, high-level players that are smart, whose literally their major job is backup support at a minimal level, but moreover, information and disbursement of information. So for instance, I've got people in Alliance chat posting chords of places to be, people to hit, things to do. And you're going to see just how good that works later on. Because keep in mind, if somebody's launching a rally at you, and before that rally hits you, you can knock 2 players out. You can, in SVS, you can port them out of the gray zone. Well, they disappear from that person's rally as well. And the person that did the rally is stuck with 2 problems. Number 1, they're short troops. And number 2, they can't stop the march. You don't give them enough time once they're marching. So that's an answer to a question, and you're going to see how that takes place later. So here we are, still again, beating up OAO, trying to figure out what's where, asking each other questions, taking a look at different battle reports. We're trying to figure out who's a viable player. Who are we going to see, and what can we do to take their troops out of the equation? How bad can we hurt them before they even start their first rally? And OAO just wasn't smart enough. Now, in this particular area, we're beating up VIP a little bit. They bubbled up better, but still had a lot of open stuff, but not as many targets for me. A lot of P2s, a lot of P1s, but not many P3, 4s, and 5s. I hit some, but it just weren't much. But then there's the psychological aspect. You need to let them know I'm here to kick your ass. That's really the bottom line. It's not a rude thing. I don't mean it in a rude way. But you want to try and demoralize them as much as possible. The smart ones, you know what? They're not really going to get demoralized. The mid-tier guys that aren't so smart, they're going to say, oh my God, I just lost half my troops. What am I going to do? Well, not a damn thing you can do but fight. But a lot of them don't, or they get hesitant. You can see, you know who's covered by a plasma cannon, you know what the issue is. In this instance, I didn't care. I saw the plasma cannon. He's a P5. I want to see what's going to happen. All right, I know I'm going to get hit by the plasma cannon, but for God's sakes, I've got so many troops, it's ridiculous. Now you can see I lost that attack. Well, I know two things at this point. First off, I knocked 100,000 off his 944. I see he has lower level troops. And I'm thinking to myself, well, the plasma cannon's got to recharge. He's not going to get that advantage. I could march right all over again. He's got shitty gear. I could take advantage of this. All of my stats are higher. My troop attack is going to just murder him. All right. And so I have to sit and figure out, what am I going to do? What are my losses? Is it worth it at this point in time? Do I really want to go back and do it again? Yeah, why not? Let's see what happens this time. And, now we start chewing up bios. Up. And there he goes. Rather than take the hit, he bubbled up. So now if he's got troops anywhere, which he doesn't, but if he had troops anywhere, they'd be coming home. If he was in a rally, they'd be coming home. So now I'm looking at capital, and we're, sitting there taking a hard look at how much time is we got before we can get into the first couple rows. What's it going to take? Where are we going to go? Who's going to get to what spot? We've got them marked. I'm looking at where my position is. Okay, I know exactly where I'm going to go. And then we're having a small discussion as to who we want to back up where. At this point, I think there was probably a 2 or 3 minutes, and we might be able to see it shortly. 2 or 3 minutes, boom, nope, there we go, and we're starting to port. So I made it into my spot. Meowie made it into her spot. Unfortunately, E-words did not, so we're going to have to take care of that. And people are popping in, and I'm waiting, just praying somebody is going to, attack me. But it didn't happen at that point. It happened later. Okay? So I'm going to knock this one guy, or try to knock this one guy out, just to make room for E-words. So I sent a lower level to begin with, and then here we go, into vet, and boom, that's a big hit, but he's reinforced, okay? And that's fine. I'm sorry, he's not reinforced, but that's fine. That was with the smaller version. So we're going to just keep doing it and hitting vet over and over until he's gone. Because again, I've got the troops to do it. And that's something that all of you need to have. You guys need to have the number of troops. Now, I did some different adjustments, and then we're going to run a different scenario. but we rallied up to say, hey, we're going to just get rid of you. And that's just the bottom line. We wanted that space. We like to be near a tower and in the mid. And that's because we know the exact times from middle into the Capitol and from corner into the tower. And so we can time those things, and so we know where they're at and what they are. And everybody else is just going at it, and it's getting kind of ugly for these guys. They're learning very quickly that we're not unreasonably strong, and what they think is strong is a little different. Now, that's, again, not their fault. I don't know if this is true. Somebody told me that this is actually the first time they've actually defended. They've always been the invader. I don't know if that's true. I have no idea. But it is what it is. And then I'm going to start picking on some other guys, and you're going to see I am not successful. These guys towards the middle, or actually in the first couple of rows, they're reinforced, and it hurts. But again, I've got the troops. Let's get it on and do it. Let's find out what they'll take. What's it going to get? I don't have a problem with this. And I don't have a problem because if you think about it, between vouchers and enlistment, you're going to get back a huge majority. You're not going to lose more than about 5% of your lost troops. That's the most I've ever lost. I think one time maybe I lost like 7%. And I think that was just because I was in a hurry trying to get something done and I didn't finish enlistment. But you're going to have to heal them. And you're going to have to, and lost that one as well. You're going to have to heal them, and you have to put them through enlistment, but then you're going to get them back. So it is what it is. That's what the game is actually all about, and you shouldn't be afraid of that. You shouldn't let that hold you back. Losing troops, that would be like the last problem I would think exists. I mean, I've gone into Reservoir League and lost every single troop in that particular match. At that match, I had about 6.5 million troops, and I think I had about 30,000 riders left when it was all over and done with. But, we all look at Reservoir League and we sit there and say, hey, it's fine. We get it all back and it doesn't cost a penny. Okay. In this instance, it does cost a penny. You've got time, you've got the effort, you've got the resources. Everything involved in the process is an expense. Whether you earned it on a free-to-play basis, it's an expense because your time is worth money. So you have to look at it like that. But you get back the vast majority. It's not that big a deal, and you really just don't have to deal with it. I know that some of you are sitting there saying, hey, he can say that kind of stuff when he's sitting there with 8 million troops. But when I'm sitting there with 2 million troops, I can't do that. Well, no, you can't. So I suggest you keep busy and you build. Stay busy, build troops. But, I just don't know any other way around it. Build, build, build. Don't be as reckless as I am because you don't have the assets that I have. What you can do is fight smarter. And we used to do that because we didn't have these troops. Okay? Everything we did was a rally. Simple. We didn't do solos. We just did rallies, and we backed them up with more rallies. I'm not sure, but I believe our SVS record is 6-1. It might be 7-1. We've only lost one SVS. And quite frankly, we lost it. It was our fault. We could have won it, should have won it. We tried something that I never will try again, but that's over and done with, and it was a mistake on our end. Just that simple. Those Koreans should have never beat us. So my losses are double theirs, but they're losing troops. And that I like. I like to see it when they lose troops, because when they lose troops, that makes it less likely they can attack our lower rank people. Keep in mind there are multiple things here in going on. There's more than one thing to pay attention to. So we're just kind of testing the waters, beating up a few people, seeing what's happening as we get ready to invade. Right now, everything's still protected. People are still jockeying for position. You've got time. Don't rush yourself. Figure it all out. Know exactly where you're going and get done what you need to get done. Okay? Don't rush yourself. Don't overextend yourself. All right? Know who your enemy is. Be aware of who they are. Recognize, you can do it like an old-fashioned way, like I do. I write notes. I'm sorry, and I'm an old person, so I rely on notes. I don't know any other way to say it. I wish there was a way to say it that was a little less derogatory about my age, but it is what it is. So I started to look at this process, and just so you know, how successful can this be? Well, porting these people out can be highly successful. It's not inexpensive, but it can be highly successful. You port them out, everything gets taken care of. So there we are. We hit vet, knocked his ass out of there, and E-Words or Park Bo-young goes in. Now he's got his corner spot. And he had, we went with $1 million, he had $1.7 million, and you can see it was a devastating hit for vet. Or for vet. Although, poor guy. And I spoke with vet and Russ and a couple of others throughout. Again, all I can tell you is these are really good people for the most part. Honest to God. They fought hard. They didn't give up early. It was partially an issue of attrition. They could have been a little bit more organized, but we would have still won in the end. Our strategy this time, by the time we got to this point, we knew what our strategy was going to be. Because basically you have two strategies. There is, you go for mid, back yourselves up, and concentrate on mid, and take the towers and take the beating, because you don't have enough to knock them out, or you might take one. Or you go for mid, and you take as many towers as you can. Well, by the time we beat them up, and by the time we figured out who was where, we also figured out very quickly we can take mid, and you'll see it. Cat owned all 4 towers a couple of times. Now, most of the time we only owned 2. Some of the time we owned 3. But hey, it is generally what it is. So we're going to be coming shortly here in about a minute or so to the end of this section, this video. And when we do, I'll post up the next one, which includes now the beginning of the Asian, but now of the capital. But now you see what it is we do. We go We beat up as many people as we can beat up in as many places as we can. We go into the gray zone and we start beating up more people because we're learning more about them. That's E-Words trying to get a hold of their governor. He has a thing about always wanting to beat the governor. But in this particular instance, she was able to move fast enough, hard enough, and bubble up enough to where he never got a good solid shot. And hey, tough shit. It happens. You've killed more than your share of governors. We'll talk.